Grace's Letter to Lincoln, Chapter 4. Grace met Papa at the door. He smelled of crisp fall air mingled with torch smoke. His pink cheeks glowed and his eyes danced. He waited until everyone was seated around the large dining room table before cutting into the steaming pies. Grace's mouth watered as the plates were passed around. Secretly, she dipped a finger into the filling and licked it. Mama saw her and winked. She could keep a secret, too. Everyone waited until Papa had eaten the first bite and bent down for another forkful. Grace perched on the edge of her chair. "What time are we going to the fair tomorrow, Papa?" Stephen asked. "The gates open at noon. If we leave at 11, we'll make it. Amanda, could you girls fix us a picnic lunch, please?" "Then we best be off," Stephen said. "It is past 10 already." Grace fidgeted while Stephen and Lucy wrapped Samantha and put on their coats. She felt like a firecracker ready to pop. As soon as the door closed, she hugged Papa and looked into his face. "May I go to the fair too?" The question popped out. "No," Papa said. "You are too young." He put a finger to Grace's lips as she got ready to speak. "I will bring you a surprise from the fair, Grace." Before Grace could protest, Mama said, "Off to bed, Frederick and Grace. It is already past your bedtime." Grace tossed and turned in bed. "It is just not fair. It is just not fair," she repeated to herself until she finally fell asleep. As soon as Stephen and Papa were off to the fair, Grace and Mama welcomed Jenny and Mrs. McCumber to their house. "Grace and Jenny, you make a banner while Mrs. McCumber and I make ours," Mama suggested. "What shall we make, Jenny?" Grace asked. "Let's make Abraham Lincoln's face on ours," Jenny said. Grace knitted her brows together, trying to imagine Mr. Lincoln's face. She knew he looked sad and that his hair was bushy, but no clear image came to mind. "Do you have a picture of him?" Grace asked Jenny. "No, but I can draw one," Jenny told her. "Do you have any paper?" Grace went upstairs to her desk. She took a precious piece of the letter paper Grandmama had given her. She saved the paper for special occasions. Making a banner for Mr. Lincoln's face is a special occasion, she thought, and she took a piece to Jenny. Jenny quickly sketched Abraham Lincoln's face. Grace marveled at the way Jenny could transform a blank paper into a person. It was as if Jenny could see through her fingertips. Mr. Lincoln looked ready to smile. His deep-set eyes gazed out at Grace as if trying to tell her something. The drawing was sharp and clear, but something was just not right. Grace could not put her finger on it. "He looks almost as if he wants to talk, Jenny. How do you do it?" "I've been practicing," Jenny said. "Pa cuts pictures from Harper's and I copy them." "I wish I could see Mr. Lincoln for real," Grace said. "Papa says he's taller than your father, and as skinny as the rails he splits," Mrs. McCumber added. "I'd like to feed him your mother's apple pies to fatten him up." They all laughed at the thought of Mr. Lincoln enjoying one of Mama's delicious pies. The women and girls worked all afternoon on their banners. Grace cut long strips of cloth that she and Jenny sewed together. Jenny carefully drew Mr. Lincoln's face on an old sheet. She cut it out. Grace stitched it onto the banner. When the clock chimed 4, the banners were finished. "Where shall we keep them?" Mrs. McCumber asked. "Could we store them at your house?" Mama suggested. "Fine," Mrs. McCumber said. "Come, Jenny, it is time to fix supper." "We must get to work too, Grace," Mama said. "Helen and Alice will be home from Lucy soon." Grace and Mama went into the kitchen. "Grace, we'll be having brown bread, beans, and venison stew," Mama said. "Please fetch the beans from the crock in the cellar." The sun had set when Papa's carriage rolled up the drive. Grace dashed to the door. She wondered what he had brought her. Papa emerged from the shadows with a long roll of paper under his arm. With a flourish, he unrolled it and held it out in both hands. It was a poster of Abraham Lincoln and Hannibal Hamlin. Grace placed the poster on the dining room table. She moved the lamp closer and turned up the flame. Abraham Lincoln stared at her from a bent wood oval frame. Mr. Hamlin faced him. A split rail fence connected the two. An eagle perched on the fence. A banner read, "Free speech, free homes, free territory." Above the fence in capital letters were the slogan, "The Union must and shall be preserved." "The Union must and shall be preserved," Grace read aloud. "Oh, Papa, this is wonderful." Grace looked back at Mr. Lincoln. His eyes penetrated hers. He seemed to be saying to her, "Miss Grace, I need your help." Grace hugged Papa and ran to the kitchen to get Mama.